I know people tend to want specifics, and they get upset when they think every organization has to have a leader, has to have a, you know, item 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think you'll find if you look at any Occupy site, whether it's New York, Oakland, Traverse City, that you're not going to find that. You're going to find that everybody's a leader, and that there are multiple causes. There may be 1 or 2 that might be high up on the list, but I don't think you're going to find somebody that says, this is what we're about.
What do you see happening across the country with the protests, the Wall Street protesting that's going on right now? What do you see developing?
It's very hard to tell. There's so many grievances out there that have been building up for 30 years or more. This movement's what? 5 weeks old? Actually about 7 weeks old maybe. So it's really hard to tell what's going to happen. But I will say this, I don't think it's going to die. I've been in Traverse City since 1975, and I've been an activist for most of those years. And I know that there's never been a sustained movement in Traverse City that equals what's going on right now. So it's not something that's going to go away tomorrow. Even if it's getting cold, there's too much determination. So you're going to see this movement continue and get stronger. And just where it goes, hard to say. If you were to ask me personally, what one of my #1 goals for the movement is really not for this movement to do it, but to support something like. There's a website called Move to Amend. I think we need a constitutional amendment that once and for all declares corporations not to be human beings, and that money is not free speech. If we can do those 2 things, or get those 2 items into our Constitution, a whole lot of what's happening out here will just go away, just plain and simple. But right now, corporations have got us, the big money has us in a stranglehold. And until we solve that problem, we're not going to make a lot of progress until we solve that issue. And so I would vote high on the list to support a constitutional amendment to remove corporate personhood and to remove money, the ability to buy politicians as a free speech item. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think you'll find just about everybody in this group anyway that agrees with at least that concept. And then there's, the list is as long as your arm, both arms. There's no end to the grievances that there are out there. And again, they've been building up for 30 years, so we aren't going to solve them here in 5 weeks or 5 months. But I look for this movement to continue.
I just would like to create more of an awareness about what's going on with regards to our politicians and Wall Street, and how money seems to be the only thing that really holds any power. And we just want to increase the power of people and have us kind of not give up on the idea that we are a nation of people united, and we need to speak up for all of us, especially the poor at this point and people who are disenfranchised. We have lost that, and we need to get that back.
I am here because I just am firmly convinced that corporate power and wealth, and I'm not against wealthy people, but you get to a certain place and we have so polluted our laws and watered down regulations that power is so great that it's almost impossible to overcome it. And I happen to be a pastor, and years ago, 1999 in fact, Harvey Cox wrote an article in Atlantic called "The Market as God," and that is precisely how I see it. The market has become God. Not people bowing down to it, but we just grant it
It's funny how
the authority.
It's funny how people that support the market in that radical sort of way, they just cannot see the obsessiveness, can they?
No, and it intrigues me that there is no other sector of life that we will not regulate in some kind of a way, but when it comes to the market, we just simply wind up saying, well, you know, it'll work itself out all by itself. Whatever the market wants to do, it will do.
I almost find that listening to people that are supportive of the market, it's almost a gauge of how patriotic you are as to how fanatical you are in favor of the market.
Well, and I think that's a product of some political spin and so forth. You know, am I opposed to the market? No, I'm opposed to a market, a capitalism that is not in some way regulated. Unregulated, unleashed capitalism is tyranny.
Right.
You know? It is, the market at this point is a force that is larger than any one nation, which concerns me very deeply. It simply is. And I'm concerned, I think you probably interviewed my wife, but I am concerned too about my kids and my grandkids. I'm old enough, I'll probably survive this, I'll go to my grave, but my grandchildren are going to live in a world. If you think public deficit is a problem, how are you going to regain for anything what's being done to the environment, what's being done to the futures of people? You have just millions and millions of people who are irrelevant.
I vividly remember what it was like in the latter part of the 60s and the 70s compared to today. And I saw this coming a long time ago.
Yes, so
and
did
it
I.
just amazed me that people did not see the steady rise of the cost of living, whereas the wage stayed the same. And I just thought that was the most peculiar thing. And it was going to be a day of reckoning. And all of a sudden, bing, here it is. We're living it right now. And I can't imagine why so many people were asleep and they didn't, either they didn't notice it or they didn't talk about it.
We're busy and we've been enjoying the life that came to us because of it, you know. I mean, a lot of people say to me, well, how can you be part of the 99%? You don't look poor. Well, I'm not. In fact, in terms of the global community, I am an incredibly wealthy person.
Well,
but I have no power. I have no power to change an unsustainable
I just saw a poll that they did on MSNBC where 68% of the current millionaires are all in favor of raising the taxes.
You know, you'd have to be a fool not to realize that if this continues the way it is, there will be no market, at least in the U.S. I think that we're ultimately going to be just sort of thrown aside and we're moving to China and to India as the new marketplace for consuming, but that's not going to accomplish a thing, you know?
The one situation that really has me perplexed is the upcoming college students. And the college students that are graduating right now and can't find work, what kind of roadblock that this is going to create, and how many people are going to be absolutely mentally crushed by the lack of work and opportunity.
I think mentally crushed, yes, but I think that if you look around the world, including the U.S., 18 to 25-year-old people are the most prone to violence, not because there's something innate in them as an age, but with nothing worthwhile to do. You know, I look at the Arab Spring and part of me just, you know, celebrates like crazy, and part of me says, but what do all of these young people do with their life when the marketplace doesn't need them? You know, we've gone from bricks and mortar to like Amazon read the other day that now they have robots who basically find all the stuff in the warehouse. It's basically people pack it and make sure the robot picked the right item, but there's no work. And I don't think we've seen the beginning of the kind of violence that's going to be around when that happens.
I think the coming summer is going to be one that's going to be long remembered.
I fear that. I do. I spent most of my life in the inner city, and we just moved here from Los Angeles.
Oh, you're from LA?
Yeah.
I'm from San Diego originally.
Are you really?
Yeah, I lived in all over Los Angeles. I lived in
fantastic.
Encino,
We lived in South
Hollywood,
Central, and I pastored
Torrance,
an
Santa
African-American
Monica.
church there, you know, and so we have been with, you know, a community where there's a huge percentage of people in poverty, you know, and you know what we do with them? We stick them in jail.
Right.
It's partially racist and it's partly class. And if there is anything that will make a great criminal, it's putting a young person in prison for some small thing.
Right.
You know, and then I look at it and I see all this privatization. It scares the whatever you want to call it out of me. Look at the world of education. You know, this little college. I happen to have grown up in Iowa, in Clinton, Iowa. This stupid little college that only 800 people can be on campus, and they have 80-some thousand students. Privatized for-profit education. 42% on recruitment, 36% on actually teaching anybody. Almost all of it's done online. And 85% of what they take in is student loans. Privatized prisons. You know, I follow California a lot yet, and I'm just amazed at 2 days ago, the LA Times had this article that the Riverside County is going to start charging $142 a day. Actually, I think $142.60 for prisoners. Am I surprised? If you were in prison in Riverside County,
They're going to charge them
$142 and some change a day.
How and that will be something
you
that
want to
they
know
will
how
be
they're going to pay
they will
it, right?
be indebted once they get out.
When you get out, you will be
So they're going to be
indebted.
enslaved. Once they serve their term, then they're going to be
so.
financially
No.
enslaved.
But when you start privatizing prisons, show me anybody in, quote, business who does not have all the incentive in the world to increase the number of their clients. You know, look at some of the private prisons in Arizona that are basically housing undocumented immigrants. Some of the most talented people in the world are in that financial privatizing sector, figuring out ways to do that kind of stuff, and I want to see them involved in trying to figure out, because I believe that there are solutions to many of our problems, but we're just kind of moving the most talented people into a whole different world.